Hey yo, what it did, y'all? Let's get right into it. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about relics in Sanctum because I actually haven't talked in a whole lot of detail about relics outside of, say, my comprehensive guide, which if you haven't checked that out, you should check it out. But I kind of cover relics when talking mostly about like mods to look for specific strategies. And I actually want to talk about relics more as a whole, as well as give you guys some other strategies that were not featured in that video. And then I'll recap the old strategies as well. But I want to give you guys a breadth of options. And to do that, I think I need to actually talk about what type of relic mods are available for you to juice up your Sanctum runs to either make them easier on yourself or more rewarding, because they're capable of doing both, kind of like, you know, artifacts and relics and boons and whatnot and all sorts of other roguelike experiences. Also, sorry for the delay in videos recently. I had a very rough week of just recovery from between BPL and then rolling into my birthday this past week. I just wanted to take some time to recover, if you will. But we're back at it. We're back in it. Let's get right into it. Before we do though, hey look, you know, if you find this video particularly helpful or useful, all that good stuff, you know, like, comment, subscribe, helps the channel out. But more importantly, this is just about getting the message out there. I recently heard actually from a friend of mine who was looking into Sanctum that like my videos are some of the most recent ones, which disturbs me, quite frankly. Not just because like, oh, I've been posting just leave it as, and just there's not a lot of actual informational content about Sanctum in the past couple of weeks, and so I want to, you know, get that message out there to people. Anyways, talking about relics. Relics, they go in that little like they go in the, you know, device when you put in your Sanctum tome, and they give you all sorts of buffs that are throughout the entire run. That's why I've called it a roguelike system as opposed to a roguelite instead of roguelike, because you do get incremental power increases as you go across your progression, or if you're in trade, you just buy them all. Right now, there's a couple mods that of course everybody knows about. We all know about the quant relics, we all know about the reveal relics, we all know about the merchant relics. I don't think I need to cover those in too much detail. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I need to cover those in much detail. So I actually want to focus first on the other types of relics, because I think the other types of relics will give you more context as far as other things that can be done and will help make sense of some of the other strategies that I'm going to explain in this video. So to that end, we're going to start with the smallest relics, the sensor and the urn relics. Those are the 1x2 and 2x1. Both of those relics roll with the same mod pool, just, you know, on different shapes, obviously. And those are primarily small amounts of flat max resolve. There's some coins at the start of the Sanctum, coins from monsters. It's a lot of coins, inspiration, and resolve, but in tiny amounts that seem insignificant until they suddenly start to add up. One that I will highlight very specifically is actually the coins at the start of a run. Just stacking up your thing full of 9 well-rolled versions of these is about 300 coins at the start of your run, which is enough to buy almost any boon, provided that it doesn't roll poorly in your first merchant, or that you don't get something like Unhallowed Ring, which increases the cost of the merchant's like wares, right? And that could alone just be enough of a power increase to get your run really going. Alternatively, you could stack enough inspiration to basically have about another 30% ish resolve to start your run with. You can also do it with flat resolve for a similar effect, and you can actually stack the resolve all the way up to, I believe, like 200 something extra maximum resolve if you want to go that way. Very useful in runs that cannot have inspiration in them, right? There are runs, by the way, where you cannot have inspiration, and so getting max resolve is very useful. If you're curious what I'm talking about, I am talking about, of course, the Power and the Promise run, which is the Eternal Damnation get reward unique, right? Small relics are good for small incremental stat buffs that you usually age out of, outside of specifically getting reveals, which then reveals you usually want to pair with something coin related when possible, right? Because that's when you're starting to really push it, and so you just need the coins to get yourself jump started. Now, in the mediums, the tome and processional 1x3 and 3x1, this is a lot more money oriented, but it also starts to have some nice combat advantages. So you're aware of the merchant choice, you're aware of the merchant prices reduction. One more in the money sphere that is worth noting is coins at the end of the room, which, now I talked about the flat coins at the start on the 2x1 and the 1x2. That's pretty positive, but the 1x3's coins per room actually amounts to, each individual one can be worth well over 300 coins over the course of a run on their own, and just stacking, let's say, 6 10 rolls of those means you're getting 60 coins a room. There are 32 rooms in a Sanctum. If you remove Lycia from that math, that puts you about 31 rooms. Let's call it 30 to make the math even. That's 1,800 Aureus over the course of an entire run. That is 4 to 6 boons at standard pricing. Again, not including Silver Tongue, not including Unhallowed Ring, just raw merchant engagement. Those are some very nice amount of boons that you can get, or ability to interact with fountains, or ability to deal with stuff like room tax, which will remove Aureus from you at the end of a room, or floor tax, you know, losing all your Aureus at the start of a floor, end of a floor, my bad. Right? You have a lot of options in that section. There's also actually guard and boss damage taken. Specifically guard or boss, right? You can't actually get both on the same relic. You can also get on their inspiration at the start of the floor, which is kind of useful, but I'm not a big fan. There's resolve recovery per room, useful for some relic runs, but not every run. Again, more of a run, a combat like player power run, as opposed to anything that can translate into rewards. I think that's all of the ones worth talking about on the 3x1s. There's of course some other stuff, but like those are the ones that I use the most frequently when doing like things besides just making money. And then we get to the 1x4 and the 4x1, the papyrus and the candlestick, as well as the 2x2, the coffer relic. All three of those relics share the same mod pool, and they are most notorious for their quant roll going up to 25%, but they also feature monster damage, percent max resolve, and there's one more very important role on them, which is that they increase the damage that monsters take. Right? It's a lot of damage increase, by the way. Just say if you're running, like when I ran the Sacred Sacrament in BPL, I stacked 2 candlesticks with it to get percent more damage, and that's, you know, 25% ink damage taken. That's very good. That's basically 25% shock off rip. Pretty much every build can utilize that, and it's on every enemy in the Sanctum. Very useful, right? And so now, why am I telling you about all of these? Oh, also, I was about to keep going, but I remembered that the candlestick, papyrus, and coffer also roll with ability to ignore affliction or to gain inspiration on affliction. Both of these are very useful. Ignore affliction is one that I think is a little too gambly personally. I don't really like it, but that's just it's not as consistent as just getting inspiration per affliction, which inspiration per affliction is extremely strong in Chains of Castigation runs. If you're not familiar with Chains of Castigation, that is the relic that rewards Sandstorm Visage at the end. If you've heard of my previous videos about it being a very strong league starting option to make a lot of currency, just running those relics on repeat, getting, you know, 3-4 sources of inspiration on affliction is a very easy way to make that run significantly safer. That run feels a lot better if you're getting 45 inspiration every time you get a trash affliction, as opposed to just getting trash afflictions and then having nothing you can do about it, nothing that you gain from the interaction, right? Now, I've covered a lot of relic mods, and there's a full list, right? I'll have the link in the description to like the PoEDB page where you can actually see the full list of relic mods. It's worth noting that the categories are small, medium, and large, which small is what I told you with the censor and urn relics, medium is professional and tome, and then large is papyrus, candlestick, and coffer. It's self-explanatory, but I just wanted to make sure you knew, just in case you were like, why are the like tags small, medium? That's why. Now, what do we do with all those relic mods? Because that's a lot of relic mods, and it would be a waste of a video if I just told you that all of these existed and said, all right, go on with your day. I'm going to give you no more information, which, to be fair, is how I learned how to do all this. But the point of making the video is that I can then expound upon what I've learned from testing instead of just telling you, hey, go experiment. But I do encourage experimentation. The experimentation with these mods is very useful for finding out other ways to use things besides just what people tell you about, because if you look around, the way people talk about Sanctum will make you think that there are only quant strat, reveal strat, and merchant strat to talk about. And that's why in my comprehensive guide video, I made sure to also cover a first Crest variant of how to run Sanctum. And similar to that, this is how I came up with the idea for the first Crest stuff, is I just kind of looked at what first Crest actually gives and saw if I had any relic mods that could actually support what it does. Because if it's going to give a reward based on coins, there has to be good coin relics, right? And so to that end, about talking about other strats that you can do, I do need to highlight that the first crest is really strong. Shout out to, I had a commenter on, I want to say one of my previous, my League Star Sanctum guide, where they talked about using tainted currency first crest early in the league to try to fish up tainted fusing, which is very effective. I've used this method for tainted currency collection races in BPL for the past 2 BPLs now that I've played it. Just using first crest, getting to about 5 to 7k coins and getting a couple tainted currency on a Lycia kill, that's very potent, very effective. That's only on 5 to 7k. On if you get a 10k plus, it gets absolutely absurd. Similar to the relic situation, which I've covered before, but I'm going to talk about again, which is that the relics on first crest are also fantastic. But the difference is that relics first crest gets things that sell to other sanctum runners or that you want to use yourself, right? Whereas the first crest, as it pertains to tainted currency, is for selling to the general marketplace. And so that's why early league, it's definitely more effective to go with the tainted currency one. So shout out to that commenter. Again, I'll have popped it up on the screen so you know what I'm talking about. But that was a fantastic shout out from them, as well as just reiterating my own previous points about using it with the relic one. The experience one, not so useful in terms of returns unless you really need more XP, which it does actually give a substantial amount of XP. There was a bug a while ago, actually, where that effect was always in play on Sanctum runs, and it was a noticeable jump in XP per run. So if you really want to hunt down some XP, really get your character leveled, again, maybe it's early on in the league and your character's only in the 80s, but you don't have the map device unlocked because you're going hard into Sanctum, like I recommended in a previous video, right? You could just use first crest experience to get yourself up to that 92, 93, 94 mark so that you can then blast a little harder, right? Stuff like that. Now, additionally, of course, there are the standard strategies, the ones that do just work, right? There's Quant, Reveal, Merchant. Each of them have their own strengths and benefits. I'm not going to cover them in too much detail. I've done that before in a previous video. They already have cheat sheets associated with them and everything. So I'm not going to touch on them too much outside of making a small addendum to the merchant one that I don't remember doing too much of a detailed justice for in previous videos, which is that the merchant strategy does not need to just be a gambling strategy. You do not just have to do it with Hour of Divinity. Or not Hour of Divinity, the Gilded Chalice. Hour of Divinity is for Reveal strat, which is going to get into another thing I'm going to talk about in a moment here. But you don't have to only do Merchant strat with the Gilded Chalice. You can just do it as a generic character power improving run. It's just another way to make the Sanctum more fun. It becomes an investment that does not return insane yield like Handle or Fist as it could if you don't do the Gilded Chalice. Same way that Reveals does not become absolutely insane if you don't play Hour of Divinity. But speed of Sanctum still matters, especially when earlier in the leagues when the unique relics are worth a lot more, or just generally for your own sanity and willingness to play the game, right? And that leads me into where I'm going to get to with this next piece, which is that the Reveal strategy with Our Divinity, I fully am aware of how strong it is currency wise. But if you've seen in the comments, people ask me which one I like the most. I tend to rate Reveals very, very lowly, and it's because I do not find the runs fun. You get full knowledge of the map and nothing else really in exchange for it. Like you don't get money to buy things from merchants with. All you get to do really is despair when you look at the whole map and don't see divines. When you look at the map, see 3 handshakes, take all the handshakes, still get no divines. If you're playing Hour of Divinity, you don't even get boons, so you don't get to have like Hairfoot or the insane Sanguine Vial plus Ornate Dagger combo for insane deletion. Like you don't actually get all that much benefit out of playing Reveals until your character is turbo invested, at which point I ask you, why play Reveals instead of investing in a better, cooler strategy, right? And so that's why I've always been low on that. And then of course the Reveal strategy, always strong, always consistent, even right now in trade, simply just because of the constant value of Our Divinity and Gilded Chalice, as their value is unaffected by other meta shifts, just due to the fact that its value is measured in the Divine's raw that it prints. Those are always valuable, and therefore you will always get value out of Quant Relics. Plus, you know, fishing up original scripture is always a pleasurable time, right? All of that to say, I wanted to put this video together just to give you guys some more context on what you can do in the Sanctum. And that means I have one last thing for you, which is tips for doing challenge runs, right? Using the relics to actually do the various challenge runs, specifically say something like the Sacred Sacrament for Winds of Fate or Chains of Castigation for Sandstorm Visage. It is okay to not run the currency generating versions of the relics for those runs. Do not feel pressured to run currency generating stuff while running Sacred Sacrament. Or, you know, obviously if you're running original scripture, I hope you know that you do not need the other money making relics in original scripture. Just run the original scripture. You will be fine, right? You will make your profit off of that. And that's the thing, is that you're running the unique ones because you know that they will make you money, with the exception of Blood of Innocence. Blood of Innocence is very weak on its own and should just be run alongside the quant strategy. But outside of that, using the other challenge runs, so, you know, again, specifically the ones that give unique such as Sandstorm Visage, or Chance of Castigation for Sandstorm Visage, you should just run things that make the run better for you if you don't have like the Giga character. That's why I mentioned the Affliction, the inspiration on Affliction roll. Like, that's a very good way to balance out a little bit of the damage that you could take from how rough that relic in particular can be, which I might make a video in the future talking about how I feel about each of the various unique runs and like tips that I will give to you for them. But I just wanted to introduce the idea of other relic mods that you might not have heard much about in order to give yourself some context. Additionally, remember that these can be used earlier in the league when your character is weaker, right? The monster damage one especially is insane when your character is weaker. Or I am a really, really big fan, again, like I mentioned, of the coins at the start of run one, or Max Resolve early on is also pretty good. I tend to prefer Inspiration due to how I play with like a Cursed Packs and whatnot. That's a whole different thing. Anyways, there's a lot more I could talk about with relics, but I think that's more or less sufficient for what I wanted to talk about here today. Just starting to open your horizons, because we're if you can't tell, I'm getting ready to start a larger thing about opening mental horizons as we are, you know, in the mid-league section here. I have a new upcoming project that I've been working on that I will probably have a couple more other videos before I actually start posting them here. But just know that this idea of expanding your mind and the way that you think about things in this game, whether that be in Sanctum or in the rest of the game in particular, in Sanctum in particular, or the rest of the game, I do have a vision for vision. Shout out to Chris Wilson for bringing it all together, because I think it's time that we start to look at the bigger picture. As we all know, PoE 2 is encroaching, right? Encroaching is a very fun word to use here, but we know that in 2 months time we'll be playing PoE 2, and that means that there's a lot of knowledge that I want to impart that's transferable, right? Between things, you know, whether it be with Sanctum or without Sanctum or different structures in the game. There's just a lot of ways of thinking that will future proof your understanding of the game. Anyways, that's everything for me here. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to connect with me more outside of here, hey, look, there's Twitch and Discord in the description. I stream sometimes. Do not wave your fist angrily at me if you try to show up and I'm not streaming. I don't stream all that much. It's just like a kind of a thing I do on and off. You would know better when I am streaming, when I'm not, either through an actual announcement on here if I think there's like a noteworthy stream upcoming, or in my Discord, right? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you found this helpful, please get it out and around to people, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.